You're listening to Hard Truths for a Soft World with Trevor L Taylor. I'm Trevor, and on this show we dig into how technology, comfort, and modern habits are reshaping our brains, our grit, and our relationships, and what we can actually do about it. Today is episode 2, and the title is Teens, AI, and the Cost of Easy Learning. If you're a parent, a teacher, or a teenager who's ever thought, why should I struggle through this when AI can just do it for me? This episode is for you. Let me start with a scene that might feel uncomfortably familiar. It's 11:37 p.m. A high school junior is slumped over a laptop. Essay due at midnight. They've got a blank doc, a tired brain, and 3 half-written sentences that sound nothing like what the teacher asked for. They open a chatbot, type in the assignment, paste a rough outline, hit enter. In 10 seconds, full essay, structured, clear, even kind of good. They tweak a few sentences, maybe swap a word here or there, and hit submit. No plagiarism site flags it. The teacher may never know. They go to bed thinking, I survived. But here's the question this episode is asking. What did they actually learn? And what happens if that becomes the norm instead of the exception? Because right now, this is not some rare edge case. A big survey from Common Sense Media found that about 70% of teens, 13 to 18, have used at least one generative AI tool, and more than half said they use AI to help with homework. A National Pew survey found that the share of US teens who say they use ChatGPT for schoolwork doubled in just 1 year, from 13% in 2023 to 26% in 2024. So this isn't a tiny group anymore. This is becoming normal. But normal and healthy are not always the same thing. Today, we're going to unpack how teens are actually using AI for school right now. Why easy learning feels great in the moment, but can quietly weaken brain development, discipline, and grit. What research says about offloading thinking to tech, search engines, AI, all of it. And finally, how to use AI wisely instead of dependently, so it becomes a tutor and not a crutch. And remember, this is not an AI is evil episode. It's a tools shape us episode. Let's start with what's actually happening out there. If you're a parent, I want you to guess something. Out of all US teens, what percentage do you think has used ChatGPT specifically for schoolwork? Pew's latest numbers say 26%, about 1 in 4. That's double the share from the year before. And when you zoom out to any generative AI tools, chatbots, image generators, homework helpers, Common Sense Media's report found around 70% of 13 to 18-year-olds had used at least one. Let me talk directly to teens for a moment. If you're listening and you paste your math problems into AI to check your work, ask it to rewrite your paragraphs so they sound better, use it to summarize chapters you didn't really read, you're not some weirdo. You're actually pretty typical. A 2024 study of adolescents in Sweden found that among older teens, over half reported using generative AI for schoolwork. ChatGPT was the most popular tool. Here's something interesting from that same research. Teens who struggled more with executive functioning, things like planning, staying focused, and resisting impulses, were the ones most likely to say AI was useful for getting their schoolwork done. In other words, the students who already find it hardest to organize themselves and push through hard tasks are the ones most tempted to lean heavily on AI. And when the Family Online Safety Institute surveyed older teens in the US, they found that convenience and speed were the top reasons teens like using generative AI. About a third cited convenience, and nearly 1 in 5 cited speed. The number one concern teens themselves raised? Losing critical thinking skills. So even teens are saying, this is super convenient, and I'm a little scared it's going to make me lazy in my thinking. That's the tension we're living in. Mini reflection. If you're a teen, I want you to rate yourself, just in your head right now. 1, I hardly ever use AI for school. 2, I use it sometimes for ideas or quick help. 3, I use it a lot, and sometimes I let it do the heavy lifting. Just notice your number, no judgment. That's your starting line. To understand the cost of easy learning, we need to talk about how real learning works. Researchers Robert and Elizabeth Bjork have spent decades studying memory and learning. They use a phrase I really like: desirable difficulties. The idea is simple. When learning is a bit effortful, when you have to struggle, recall, think, and work things out, it actually sticks better and longer. Some examples of desirable difficulties: trying to remember an answer before looking it up, testing yourself instead of just rereading notes, mixing different types of problems instead of doing 20 of the same kind in a row, having to explain a concept in your own words to someone else. Those things feel harder in the moment. You might think, ugh, I'm so bad at this, it's not clicking. But on the brain level, that effort is like lifting weights. The Bjorks and others have shown that these kinds of challenges improve long-term retention and your ability to use what you've learned in new situations, even though they make performance look worse in the short term. So here's the core problem. AI is incredibly good at removing those desirable difficulties. Instead of wrestling with a math step, trying to word a sentence yourself, or figuring out what a question is asking, you can hand it all to a chatbot and get a smooth, polished answer in seconds. Short term, that feels amazing. Long term, it's like sending someone else to the gym for you and hoping their muscles will somehow transfer. Quick experiment, listener exercise. If you're not driving, try this with me. I'm going to say 3 simple questions. Don't look anything up, just think or say the answers out loud. What's 17 times 6? Name 3 causes of climate change. Explain in 1 sentence what democracy means. Give yourself 5 seconds for each. Now, notice how that felt. Even if you weren't sure, your brain had to reach. That reaching is where the wiring happens. When a teen says, "I'll just ask AI," they skip that reach. Do that enough times, day after day, and you're training your brain to avoid the very effort that builds strength. Before AI, we already had a version of this problem: search engines. Scientists talk about something called the Google effect, the tendency to rely on the internet as a kind of external memory bank. If you know you can quickly look information up, you're less likely to store it deeply in your own memory. A recent meta-analysis looking at this effect found that relying heavily on digital search changes how we allocate our cognitive resources, what we bother to remember ourselves, and what we offload to devices. Now add generative AI to that. We're not just offloading facts anymore. We're offloading the process of structuring arguments, choosing vocabulary, generating ideas, solving multi-step problems. Done often enough, that can weaken your ability to plan and organize your thoughts, reduce practice in writing clearly, make it harder to solve problems when the AI isn't there, encourage a mindset of, why think hard if something else can do it? One 2024 study on adolescents using generative AI for schoolwork found that teens with more difficulties in executive functioning were especially likely to see AI as helpful for completing assignments. That's a warning sign, because those are the very teens who most need practice planning, staying on task, and managing mental effort. Let me put it this way. If your brain gets used to always having a co-pilot, it may forget how to fly solo. Let's shift from brain to character. Every time you sit down to do schoolwork, you're not just learning math or history, you're reinforcing a story about yourself. I'm the kind of person who pushes through when it's hard, or I'm the kind of person who finds a workaround as fast as possible. Neither of those stories forms overnight. They're built out of tiny, repeated decisions. Do I reread the paragraph and try again? Or do I paste it into a chatbot? Do I struggle for 5 more minutes with this proof? Or do I just ask AI to show steps and then copy them? Over time, those decisions shape your discipline. Do you start things when you don't feel like it? Your work ethic. Do you finish things well or just aim for good enough to turn in? Your grit. Do you keep going when you're confused or give up quickly? A press release from the Family Online Safety Institute reported that many teens are very aware of this tension. They like AI because it's convenient and fast, but the top fear they voiced was losing critical thinking skills and what that might mean for their future. So the concern here is not just cheating on homework, it's deeper. What kind of adults are we training teens to become if most of their difficult mental reps are outsourced to machines? Think of AI as a mental elevator. Elevators are great when you're carrying groceries or injured or going to the 40th floor. But if you always take the elevator, even one floor, you shouldn't be surprised if the stairs leave you gasping. Easy learning every single time? That's the elevator. You need some stairs. We also need to talk honestly about cheating. Educators around the world are wrestling with how AI changes academic integrity. Some data is surprisingly hopeful. One study of high schools that had been surveying students about cheating before AI and after AI found no big jump in self-reported cheating after ChatGPT came out. At the same time, universities and schools are reporting sharp increases in confirmed AI-related cheating cases, like over 1,000 AI cheating incidents reported in one recent Scottish academic year alone, a huge jump from the year before. News reports describe schools shifting toward in-class essays, handwritten exams, and oral assessments because AI tools make take-home writing assignments so easy to fake. And policies are all over the place, which leaves a lot of students confused about what actually counts as cheating. So we've got a mess. Some adults think any use of AI is cheating. Some students think none of it is cheating because everyone does it. And a lot of teens are just guessing. If you're a teen listening, here's a simple way to cut through some of that confusion. If the AI is doing the thinking that the assignment is supposed to make you do, you're crossing a line. If the goal of the assignment is for you to generate ideas, practice explaining, show how you solve problems, and you let AI take over those steps, you're not just bending a rule, you're robbing yourself. So what do? Smash the laptops, ban the bots? Realistically, no. Organizations like UNESCO and various education departments have started saying that blanket bans on AI in schools aren't practical, and that the priority should be responsible, human-centered use with clear guidance. Even some AI companies are trying to build features like study modes that push students to engage more deeply rather than just copy answers. For example, ChatGPT's study mode uses more of a question and answer approach to encourage thinking, not just spitting out solutions, though the regular, more shortcut-friendly version still exists right next to it. So the challenge isn't AI or no AI. It's how do we use AI in a way that builds, not erodes, thinking and character? I want to give you a simple framework you can remember. WISEAI. Whether you're a teen, a parent, or a teacher, you can use this. W, work first. Do your own thinking before you ask AI for help. Try the problem, outline the essay, take a stab at the explanation. Even if you're wrong, your brain has done real work. Then you can compare your attempt to AI's feedback. I, interrogate, don't idolize. When AI gives you an answer, ask, does this actually make sense? Look for steps, not just final answers. Ask follow-up questions. Why? Explain that more simply. Show me another way. This builds critical thinking instead of blind trust. S, Supplement, don't substitute. Use AI to add to your learning, not replace it. Good uses might be asking for another example of a math concept, getting a simpler explanation of something you already tried to learn, asking for practice questions and then solving them yourself, getting feedback on your own paragraph and then revising it yourself. More dangerous uses: write my whole essay on this topic. Solve these 20 problems for me so I can turn it in. Give me a summary so I don't have to read. If AI is doing all the heavy lifting, you've crossed from supplement to substitute. E, explain it back. Once you think you understand something with AI's help, try to explain it out loud to yourself, to a parent or friend, or by writing your own short explanation from scratch. If you can't explain it without looking, you don't really own it yet. This explain it back step turns AI from a crutch into a coach. Let's get concrete. For teens, here are 3 rules you can try. The 10-minute rule. Work on a problem or task for at least 10 focused minutes before checking AI. No multitasking, no scrolling, just you and the work. The 2-pass rule for writing. Pass 1. You write your own rough draft, messy, imperfect, but yours. Pass 2. You may paste parts into AI to ask for suggestions, clarity, or checking. You always make the final decisions and do the final edits. The no AI zone. Pick at least one subject where you commit to not using AI on routine assignments. Maybe English, maybe math, maybe a foreign language. Treat it as your mental gym. For parents, a few things you can do without needing a PhD in AI. Ask curious, not accusatory questions. Instead of, "Are you cheating with AI?" try, "When you use AI for school, what do you use it for? Where do you feel like it helps you actually learn, and where might it be too easy?" Set some family guidelines. For example, AI can help explain, but it can't write entire assignments. You can check your work with AI after you've tried yourself. If you're not sure whether using AI for something is okay, you must ask first. Model your own behavior. If your child sees you thinking things through, not just asking AI or search for every tiny question, they're learning from that. For teachers, you're in a tough spot. Policies are still catching up. Some educators are responding by shifting more writing activities into class where thinking is visible. Being explicit about what kinds of AI use are allowed, brainstorming, grammar checking, etc., and what isn't. Designing assignments that require personal reflection, in-class discussion, or oral defense, which AI can't easily fake. Whatever you do, the key is clarity. Teens themselves say one of their biggest needs is clear guidance from adults about what's okay and what isn't. Let's turn this into an experiment you can actually try. I call this the 7-day AI upgrade challenge. You can do this as a team, a parent, or even a whole class. For the next 7 days, pick one class, just one. Maybe the one where you currently use AI the most. Apply WISE AI in that class. Work first for at least 10 minutes. Interrogate AI's answers. Use it to supplement, not substitute. Explain it back at the end. Keep a simple log. Each day, jot down what you worked on, how you used or didn't use AI, how it felt. At the end of the week, ask yourself, do I understand this topic better than usual? Did my confidence change at all? Where did AI help? And where did it tempt me to take shortcuts? Parents, you can do this alongside your teen. Check in at dinner. What did you notice about using AI differently today? Celebrate honest effort, not just good grades. Remember, the goal is not perfect purity. The goal is conscious use. I want to say this clearly. If you've been leaning heavily on AI, whether you're a teen or an adult, you are not broken. You're human. These tools are designed to be convenient. They feel good precisely because they remove friction. But here's the catch. The brain grows through friction. Character grows through friction. Grit grows through friction. AI is not going away. By the time today's teens are deep into their careers, they'll likely be working with AI every single day. So the real question is, are you going to be the person who knows how to think with AI, or the person who has to be told what to do by AI? That difference starts with how you approach tonight's homework.
Let's quickly recap the big ideas from today. AI use among teens is exploding. Around 70% have used generative AI tools, and about a quarter of US teens report using ChatGPT for schoolwork, twice as many as the year before. Easy learning is not free. When AI removes all the difficulty, it also removes the struggle that builds deep learning, discipline, and grit. Our brains tend to offload memory and problem solving to technology when it's available, which can change what we practice and what we retain. Teens who already struggle with planning and focus are often the ones leaning hardest on AI to finish assignments, making them especially vulnerable to over-reliance. Cheating is a real concern, but a lot of the problem is confusion and gray areas. The safest rule is, if the AI is doing the thinking the assignment is supposed to make you do, you're crossing a line. We can use AI wisely. Work first, interrogate, supplement, explain it back, instead of letting it hollow out our effort. If this episode got you thinking, your next step is simple. Choose one way you're going to upgrade the way you use AI this week. Just one. Tell someone what you're doing so you're not doing it alone. In our next episode, we're going to look at another part of the picture: screens, games, and the motivation trap. How phones and gaming are rewiring young people's motivation and making real life feel flat. You won't want to miss that one.
You've been listening to Hard Truths for a Soft World with Trevor L Taylor. If this episode helped you, share it with a teen, a parent, or a teacher who's trying to figure out how AI fits into learning. The world isn't getting any less digital, but we can still raise minds and hearts that know how to think. I'm Trevor L Taylor. I'll talk to you in the next episode.